06:15 June 4th, 1945, Okinawa. The coordinates designate a muddy patch of ground known as Hill 77, just northeast of the pulverized ruins of Shuri Castle. The air is thick, a humid blanket saturated with the stench of diesel, cordite, and rain-soaked volcanic ash. The rain has finally stopped, but the world is a slurry of grey and rust-colored mud. Lieutenant Elias Thorne, 3rd Marine Engineer Battalion, stands by the idling engine of a Caterpillar D8 bulldozer, the metal still warm. He pulls a worn leather glove from his hand, wiping the grit from his face. He is not a frontline infantry officer. He is a man of measurements, of stress loads and concrete mixtures. His job is not to take the hill, but to make it usable, to clear the wreckage, fill the shell holes, and most importantly, find the traps left behind. Just 3 days prior, a similar cleared sector had cost him 2 men. Site Starter field report would clinically state they did not survive their injuries. Site 4, after encountering an uncatalogued pressure plate mine. Thorne remembers the muffled crump and the silence that followed. It was a failure of his observation, a failure of his process. War, he is learning, is a brutal administrator of engineering exams. He looks at the map, then at the hill. The 1st Marine Division has already swept through. The ground is secure, but secure is a relative term on Okinawa. The Japanese defenses are not on the ground, they are in it. Thorne's eyes scan the terrain, ignoring the obvious debris of battle, the discarded helmets, the shattered rifles, the churned earth. He is looking for inconsistencies. His gaze settles on the objective. At the crest of the low hill sits a small, traditional Shinto shrine. It is miraculously, impossibly intact. While everything around it has been blasted to splinters and powder, the simple torii gate and the small stone honden stand defiant. The shelling has chipped the stone, but it stands. A private second class, barely 20, lights a cigarette in the cup of his hands. "Looks peaceful, sir. Maybe the gods were watching it." Thorne shakes his head, his focus unbroken. "The gods left this island a long time, kid." He walks toward it, the mud sucking at his boots. The contrast is too stark. It is not divine intervention, it is a tactical variable, it is a signpost. In an environment of total destruction, the only thing left standing is the one thing you were meant to overlook. He pulls a small notebook from his breast pocket, the cover stained with sweat and oil. He doesn't write, he just looks. The shrine is the problem. It is an object of reverence that, in this new context, has become an object of intense suspicion. It is an engineering anomaly, and anomalies in a combat zone are almost always lethal. The battle for Okinawa has, by this point, devolved from a war of maneuver to a subterranean siege. The infantry clear a ridge, taking casualties for every yard, only to be attacked the next day from tunnels beneath. The ground they just captured, and the 32nd Army of Imperial Japan has turned the island into a fortress of unprecedented depth. Lieutenant Thorne, nominally a builder, has become a cave flusher, a title he despises. His engineering skills are being used to seal tombs, often with the enemy still inside. He approaches the shrine on Hill 77, his team fanning out, detectors sweeping uselessly over the iron-rich soil. His sergeant, a man named Hasek, nudges a loose stone near the base with his boot. Thorne's voice is sharp, cutting through the morning hum. "Don't touch anything." Hasek freezes. "Sir?" Thorne crouches, his fingers tracing the base of the small stone structure. The rest of the Marines see a place of worship. Thorne sees seams. He sees mortar. He runs his thumb along a joint. The stone is ancient, pitted by weather. But the mortar holding it to the foundation is new. It is dark, expertly applied and barely cured. It smells like fresh cement, not damp earth. He looks up at Hasek. This isn't a shrine. It's a plug. It's a lid. He steps back, his mind racing. The structure is perhaps 10 feet by 10 feet. Not large, but the foundation it sits on. He scrapes the mud away from the edge. It is not rock. It is a perfect level slab of reinforced concrete, textured and stained to look like the surrounding limestone. The Japanese engineers had poured a massive slab, disguised it as an ancient foundation, and then placed a real, captured or purpose-built shrine on top as camouflage. It is brilliant. It is terrifying. It's an entrance, he whispers. The mystery is no longer if something is hidden here, but what. What is so valuable that it requires this level of artistry and deception? What is beneath their feet that the Japanese were so desperate to protect, or so desperate to use later? What he didn't know was that this meticulously crafted illusion was the access point to a subterranean network that could reverse the course of the entire sector battle. The tactical reality of the island-hopping campaign is one of relentless, grinding attrition. The Japanese Kessen doctrine dictates a defense in depth, designed to inflict maximum casualties on the invaders and force a negotiated peace. Okinawa is the physical zenith of this strategy. The island itself is a weapon. Its geology, a complex mix of limestone, coral and volcanic rock, is ideal for tunneling. Field reports from the 10th Army G2 Intelligence Section paint a grim, evolving picture. An after-action report from the 27th Infantry Division reads, "Enemy forces utilize reverse slope positions and subterranean networks with unparalleled skill. We are not fighting an army on the field. We are fighting an army within the earth. Every burial tomb, every ancestral shrine, and every drainage culvert must be treated as a potential strongpoint or ambush site." The numbers are staggering. By June 1945, Allied forces have identified over 1,500 sealed caves and bunkers, but intelligence estimates suggest this is only a fraction of the total. The 32nd Army, under General Mitsuru Ushijima, has spent months connecting these natural features into a defensive spider web. They are not mere hiding places. They are barracks, hospitals, supply depots, and command centers, some capable of holding 1,000 men, all shielded by dozens of feet of solid rock. A captured Japanese manual on underground fortifications details the methodology. Entrances are to be minimal, easily concealed, and always defended by interlocking fields of fire. Critically, many are designed with multiple access points, meaning a cave cleared by one platoon can be reoccupied by enemy soldiers from a connecting tunnel hours later. The technological problem is not one of firepower. The US Navy provides overwhelming bombardment. The problem is one of architecture and engineering. The Americans are surface fighters. The Japanese have become a subterranean species. This is the cold, factual foundation of the war Elias Thorne finds himself in. He is a 20th century engineer trained in steel and concrete, fighting an enemy using medieval siege tactics combined with modern explosives. His bulldozers and dynamite are crude instruments against such a defense. Every new attempt to clear a zone reveals a deeper, more complex layer. The enemy is literally undermining them, and the strategic cost is measured in stalled advances and daily casualty lists. Site start. The data presented in after-action reports translates into a daily, visceral reality of human suffering. Site 3. For the men of the 3rd Marine Engineers, the statistics are written in the faces of the men who return from the clearing details. The fight has moved from the sun-scorched ridges to the black, suffocating confines of the tunnels. This is a war of senses. It is the smell of damp earth, stale air, and sulfur from the demolition charges. It is the sound of muffled voices in the darkness, the scrape of a boot on stone, the terrifying click of a grenade pin. Sight start. It is the absolute, lightless black that eats the beam of a flashlight. Sight 16. Sight start. The psychological toll is immense, far exceeding the physical danger. Sight 10. Marines trained for maneuver and assault are forced into the role of exterminators, armed with flamethrowers and satchel charges. A diary entry from a private in Thorne's battalion captures the feeling. We are not soldiers anymore. We are rat catchers in the dark. We set explosives at a cave mouth, and we don't know if we are sealing in 1 man or 100. The ground trembles, but the silence afterward is worse. We just move to the next hole. The island is hollow. This is the human consequence of the Japanese engineering. It creates a battlefield without fronts, without flanks, and without respite. Morale erodes under the constant invisible threat. The enemy is everywhere and nowhere. Men become jumpy, firing at shadows, seeing traps in every loose stone. Exhaustion is a constant. Sight start. Not just physical tiredness, but a deep spiritual weariness. Sight 3. The war is no longer about victory, it is about survival. Commanders at the corps level, looking at maps and logistical charts, cannot grasp the three-dimensional nature of the fight. They issue orders to secure an area, but the engineers on the ground know this is impossible. The island itself is the enemy. It is an unmapped, living labyrinth. The experts in G2, for all their efforts, are perpetually one step behind. They are mapping a network that is still being dug. The consensus among the men doing the work is simple. The true extent of the underground world cannot be known. It was, they agreed, an unsolvable problem. If you find this untold history of the war in the Pacific compelling, support our channel by subscribing. The hidden battles are often the most defining. Elias Thorne is not a product of West Point or the Naval Academy. He is 28 years old, a civil engineer from Denver, Colorado. His expertise lies not in military fortifications, but in water. Before the war, he was a junior project engineer on the Colorado River Aqueduct, a man who understood intimately how to move earth, how to read geology, and how to calculate the load-bearing capacity of concrete and steel. He is, by nature, a quiet and methodical man. His mind operates in layers, seeing the strata of rock beneath the soil, the flow of water, the stress lines in a structure. He is a builder by trade and temperament. He joined the Navy Seabees in 1942 with the expectation of building airstrips in the rear. But his high aptitude for physics and his mining background got him fast-tracked, commissioned, and transferred to the Marine Combat Engineers. This context shapes his thinking. Where an infantry officer sees cover and concealment, Thorne sees geology. Where a demolitions man sees a target, Thorne sees a structural problem. He hates the waste of war, the brute force application of high explosives. He views it as a failure of imagination. He carries a slide rule in his pack, alongside his K-bar knife. His quirk is his notebook. He is constantly sketching. Not people, but things. The jointing of a stone wall, the erosion pattern on a hillside, the way a captured Japanese bunker uses a cantilevered concrete roof to deflect artillery. He is reverse engineering the enemy's mind. This quiet, introspective nature makes him an oddity among the hardened Marines, but his platoon trusts him. They have seen his hunches prevent disaster before. He doesn't guess, he calculates, and his calculations are telling him that the shrine on Hill 77 is the most important discovery of the campaign. The idea forms in Thorne's mind as he stands back from the shrine. It is not a cache. It is not a machine gun nest. Those are too small, too tactical. The level of engineering, the sheer size of the concrete slab, this is a main entrance. This is a doorway to something strategic. He returns to the battalion command post, a captured bunker that still smells of fish and stale tobacco. He finds his commanding officer, a captain named Rourke, poring over maps. Thorne presents his finding. "Sir, I've identified a major subterranean access point on Hill 77. It's disguised as a shrine." Rourke doesn't look up. "Lieutenant, G2 has cleared that entire grid. They scanned it for voids. It's clean. We're moving the battalion CP to that ridge tomorrow." "Sir, G2 is wrong," Thorne says, his voice quiet but firm. "They're looking for tunnels. This is a constructed concrete shaft. It's too deep, too well shielded. Their equipment wouldn't ping it." Rourke finally looks up, his eyes red with exhaustion. "A hunch, Thorne? I'm moving 300 men. I've got reports of sniper fire all over that sector. I can't spare a detail to go ghost hunting in a cemetery." "It's not a hunch, sir," Thorne replies, pulling out his notebook. He shows Rourke his sketch of the concrete seam, the fresh mortar. "This is an engineered structure. It's a 50-ton lid. I need a D8 with a winch, and I need a demolitions team." Rourke slams his hand on the table. "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You want to tie a bulldozer to a 50-ton anything. You'll throw a track or snap the cable, and you'll have a 2-day recovery job, all while sitting on an uncleared hill. You are a combat engineer. Your job is to clear Route 4. That's an order, Lieutenant." Thorne stands there for a moment. He sees the captain's logic. It is sound. It is also wrong. He nods. "Yes, sir." He walks out of the bunker. He finds Sergeant Hasek. "Gunny, we're going to clear Route 4. Hasek nods, relieved. "Good, sir. This place gives me the creeps." "We'll need a D8, Thorne continues. "Requisition the one from 2nd Platoon, the one with the logging winch, and I need 400 feet of 1-inch steel cable and a case of C2. We're going to clear that route." Right after a brief detour to Hill 77. Hasek stops, a slow grin spreading across his face. "That's diverting priority equipment, sir. That's highly irregular." "The Japanese built a door, Gunny," Thorne says, sliding a fresh magazine into his pistol. "I'm going to knock." The operation must be done at night. During the day, Hill 77 is under observation from unseen Japanese positions in the hills beyond. Any activity, especially with heavy equipment, would draw immediate and accurate mortar fire. Thorne, Hasek, and a hand-picked team of 5 engineers move out under the cover of a moonless sky. The D8 bulldozer's engine a low, muffled rumble that blends with the distant artillery. The setting is one of profound tension. The area is secure, but the darkness is alive. Every shadow could hold a sniper, sighter start. Every patch of loose earth could be a mine. Sight. Uden. The team moves with practiced silence, their equipment wrapped in burlap to prevent clinking. Hasek is Thorne's new ally. He is a career Marine, a man who respects the chain of command but respects competence more. He believes in Thorne's quiet, analytical brilliance. "This is a hell of a risk, Lieutenant," Hasek whispers, unspooling the heavy steel cable. "If Rourke finds out we've got his prized bulldozer up here, he'll find out when we show him what's inside," Thorne replies. He's all business, his mind focused on the physics problem. He directs the placement of the D8, positioning it on solid ground, angled for a direct pull. They gather the materials, the bulldozer itself, a 15-ton beast, the winch, a heavy-duty model designed for logging, 4 100-foot lengths of steel cable and heavy iron shackles. Thorne hasn't told the team the full plan. As far as they know, they are just clearing a stubborn piece of debris. The sensory details are sharp. The cold, metallic smell of the steel cable, the grinding sound of the bulldozer's tracks on the rocky soil, the damp, humid air. Thorne is on his hands and knees by the shrine, his flashlight shielded by a poncho, scraping mud from the concrete slab. He finds what he's looking for: 2 massive, forged steel lifting rings sunk into the concrete and concealed by stone covers. "They plan to lift this," he says to Hasek. "They had a crane, or they plan to use one. This isn't just an entrance. It's a cargo hatch. This changes everything. It implies a resupply route. It implies depth and scale, far beyond a simple observation post. The urgency deepens. They can't just blast it. They have to open it. They have to see what's inside. The first attempt is a failure. Thorne, fearing a trap, decides to pull on the shrine structure itself, hoping to topple it off the slab. They wrap the cables around the small stone building. Hasek takes the controls of the D8. "Taking the strain, sir." The engine revs, the exhaust stack blowing a plume of black smoke. The cables go taut as iron bars. They vibrate, humming with immense tension. The stone Hondan groans, cracks and then shatters, the Tory gate snapping like a twig. The D8 lurches forward as the resistance gives way. The cable snaps back, whipping through the air. The men dive for cover. Silence. The shrine is a pile of rubble, but the slab has not moved. "Damn it!" Hasek yells, climbing down from the cab. "Now what, sir? We just announced our position to every sniper in the sector." Thorne is already walking back to the slab, undeterred. That wasn't the door. That was the doorbell. He points his flashlight at the rubble. "Get this junk clear. We're hooking to the rings. We're pulling the lid itself." It takes them an hour to clear the shattered stone and re-rig the cables to the 2 massive steel loops. This is the real test. The D8 is now pulling against the full weight of the concrete and the friction of its seal. Hasek engages the winch. The engine screams, a high-pitched wail of metal under maximum stress. The bulldozer's tracks begin to dig into the mud. The cables are vibrating so fast they are a blur. "It's not moving!" a private yells over the noise. "More power!" Thorne shouts. Hasek throttles up. The D8 shudders, and then, with a sound like a giant's knuckle cracking, the seal breaks. A deep, grinding shk echoes across the hill as the massive concrete lid, 12 inches thick and weighing at least 40 tons, begins to scrape open. It moves an inch, then a foot, then 3 feet, revealing a perfect square of absolute impenetrable blackness. A rush of cold, foul air billows from the opening, a smell of stagnant water, machine oil, and death. The team stares, frozen. Hasek cuts the engine. The sudden silence is deafening. Hasek walks to the edge, his carbine leveled into the dark. He looks at Thorn, his face pale in the starlight. "I'll be damned, sir! You found it!" Thorn clicks on his flashlight, the beam cutting into the void. It doesn't hit a bottom. It illuminates the top rungs of a steel ladder descending into the heart of the island. If stories like this fascinate you, stay with us. The next chapter of wartime innovation might surprise you. By 0500, dawn is a grey smudge in the east. The arrival of Captain Rourke is announced by the crunch of his jeep's tires. He is incandescent with fury. "Lieutenant Thorn, what in the God-loving hell have you done?" He storms up the hill, his runner trailing behind him. He sees his D8 parked at a crazy angle, its tracks caked in mud. He sees the shattered remains of the shrine. He sees the heavy cables, and he sees the black, gaping hole in the earth. "You disobeyed a direct order, Lieutenant," Rourke snarls, getting in Thorn's face. "You diverted priority equipment. You compromised this position. And for what? You dug up a tomb. You cracked open a burial vault." Hasek steps forward. "Sir, with respect—" "Shut up, Sergeant," Rourke snaps. He turns back to Thorn. "You have 2 minutes to explain why I shouldn't have you court-martialed for this." Thorn is calm. He doesn't match the captain's anger. He simply holds his flashlight. "It's not a tomb, sir. It's a shaft, and it's active." "Active? G2 cleared this. It's empty." "No, sir, it's not." Thorn's defense is his observation. "Look." He points the beam at the steel ladder. "Those rungs. There's no rust. There's fresh mud on them. Not our mud. Theirs." He walks to the edge of the shaft and tells a private to pass him a C2 block, an inert brick of plastic explosive. He drops it into the hole. They listen. 1, 2, 3, 4. A distant hollow splash. "It's flooded," Rourke says, unimpressed. "It's a cistern. You found a well. Congratulations, Thorn. You're relieved of duty." "Wait, sir," Thorn says. "Listen." A faint sound is drifting up from the shaft. A rhythmic mechanical thrum. A low-frequency vibration they can feel in the soles of their boots. Thorn looks at the captain. "That's a generator, sir, or a ventilation fan. It's ventilated, it's lit, and it's occupied. G2 didn't find it because they were looking for caves. The 32nd Army built a bunker under this hill. A deep bunker. And we just found the main entrance." Rourke's anger evaporates, replaced by a cold, calculating stare. He crouches at the edge, listening. The hum is undeniable. He looks at Thorn, then at the shaft, then back at Thorn. He stands up, brushing the dirt from his knees. He turns to his runner. "Get G2 on the horn. Tell them we've found a major subterranean complex at Hill 77. Tell them Lieutenant Thorn has found a door." The confrontation is over. The real test is not a firefight. It is a descent into the unknown, a mission of technical and psychological endurance. This is not a job for infantry. This is a job for engineers. A specialized EOD, Explosive Ordnance Disposal Team arrives, led by Thorn and Hasek. Sight start. The mission shifts from discovery to exploitation. Sight. 11. They descend the ladder, their helmet lamps cutting weak cones into the oppressive dark. The air is cold and damp, smelling of ozone from the generator and the latrine. The ladder ends on a concrete floor, 50 feet down. A steel bulkhead door, unlatched, opens onto a long, rock-hewn tunnel. It is brilliantly constructed, shored up with heavy timbers and concrete supports. Electric lights are strung every 20 feet. It is a main thoroughfare. The scene is cinematic. The only sound is their own breathing and the distant thrum of the generator. They move slowly, checking for tripwires. The tunnel opens into a massive, multi-level chamber. It is a world unto itself. They have found an underground barracks, easily capable of holding 200 men. Empty bunks are carved into the rock. A command station sits abandoned, maps still pinned to a board. A radio set is warm. They just missed the occupants. They press deeper. The complex is a labyrinth. They find a fully stocked hospital, a kitchen, and finally the main objective. The hum of the generator is loudest here. They round a corner and stop. It is a massive ammo cache, not just bullets and grenades. This is a strategic reserve. Boxes of 75mm artillery shells are stacked to the ceiling. New, long-barreled mortars they've never seen before. Components for Shinyo suicide boats. And, most critically, a locked footlocker full of documents, intelligence, maps. The team begins to inventory the find, but Thorne feels a cold dread. It is too easy. The occupants fled, but they left the lights on, and they left the cache intact. He scans the entrance to the depot. His eyes catch it, a single thin wire stretched taut across the floor, a simple tripwire. Hasek raises his boot to step over it. "Stop!" Thorne's voice echoes. He drops to his knees, his light fixed on the wire. "Don't move." "It's just a wire, sir. I'll cut it." "No." Thorne's mind is racing, pulling from his Colorado mining experience. Look at it, it's taut, but it's connected to a tension release fuse. You cut it, it blows, you trip it. It probably does nothing. So it's a dud? No, Thorne says, his light tracing the wire to a point under the main stack of artillery shells. It's not a trap for us, it's a trap for them. A pressure release. The Japanese would wire a cache like this, so if their own men tried to take ammo without disarming it, the shift in weight would set it off, or if a conquering army started removing the shells. He has found the real trap. The entire ammo dump, tons of high explosives, is sitting on a massive factory-made pressure plate. The tripwire is a decoy. The real trigger is the removal of the prize itself. It is a work of diabolical engineering. The impact is immediate. They don't just clear a cache, they save the entire engineering battalion that would have been sent to clear it. They have captured not only the enemy's bullets, but their entire operational blueprint for the sector. Hours later, Thorne emerges, blinking in the bright morning sun. Captain Rourke is waiting. He doesn't say a word. He just hands Thorne a canteen of water and a pack of cigarettes. A silent, profound approval. The crazy idea has just altered the map of the battle for Okinawa. The immediate consequence of the Hill 77 discovery is a tactical revolution. The captured maps are a Rosetta Stone for the U.S. 10th Army. They detail the entire network of primary and secondary tunnels connecting the Shuri line to the southern defenses. What was previously a blind, bloody fight of sealing and clearing, one cave at a time, becomes a surgical campaign of targeted infrastructure denial. Combat engineering battalions, with Thorne's team now attached to G2, begin a new phase. They are no longer just cave flushers. They are subterranean hunters, using the enemy's own maps to find the ventilation shafts, the command nodes, and the generators. Field reports from the following weeks quantify the impact. U.S. casualties from unforeseen subterranean counterattacks in that sector dropped by an estimated 30%. The battle for the Southern Highlands, which planners expected to last another month, is concluded in 2 weeks. The long-term effects are even more profound. The Okinawan campaign, and specifically the lessons from the Hill 77 complex, become the foundational text for U.S. military engineering doctrine in the post-war era. The Bureau of Yards and Docks and the Army Corps of Engineers begin a decades-long study into subterranean warfare. The concept of denial of infrastructure expands. The Cold War is fought as much in theory underground, in missile silos and continuity of government bunkers, as it is on the surface. Elias Thorne's legacy is quiet. He is awarded a Bronze Star for meritorious service in a technical capacity. The citation praises his keen analytical skill and engineering insight. It never mentions his disobedience. After the war, he receives his discharge, returns to Colorado, and marries his fiancée. He never speaks of the war, least of all the black humming hole beneath a shrine. He resumes his life as a builder. He joins the Bureau of Reclamation and spends the next 30 years building dams and aqueducts across the American West. He raises a family. He reads blueprints. He works with concrete and steel. He is a man who, for one terrifying moment in his life, was forced to think like his enemy, to see the world not as a builder, but as a trapper. His name is a footnote in a single battalion's after-action report, which is where the real history of innovation, the quiet defiance of a single observant mind, is so often buried. The world today is defined by the same principles Elias Thorne contended with on Hill 77. The search for the hidden, the unseen and the strategically vital continues. The principles of his discovery, that of seeing the anomaly in the ordinary, of trusting observation over assumption, are applied every day. Modern combat engineers in urban environments do not look for shrines. They look for utility tunnels and subway lines that can be used as arteries for an insurgency. Sight, start, disaster response teams, sifting through the rubble of an earthquake, use the same instincts to read the ground, listening for the hum of a trapped generator or the echo of a voice in a void. Site 11. Space exploration agencies, designing probes to land on other worlds, must engineer for an underground they cannot see, anticipating unknown geologies. The universal insight from Thorne's story is one of perception. The greatest dangers and the greatest opportunities are often not concealed in the complex, but hidden in the obvious. They are the cleared hill, the harmless shrine, the fact that does not fit the consensus. Innovation is not always the invention of a new tool. Sometimes it is simply the courage to look at the same world as everyone else and see something different. The landscape of Okinawa has healed. The mud of 1945 is gone, replaced by green grass and solemn monuments. The entrance to the Hill 77 complex, the shaft Thorne revealed, was sealed by American engineers after the war, this time permanently, with thousands of tons of concrete. It is still there, a silent subterranean witness, not to the battle that raged above it, but to the quiet intellectual defiance of the man who refused to believe the ground was solid. True innovation is not just about creating the new. It is about having the courage to see the old in a new way. Every great idea begins as an act of defiance against impossibility. What impossible ideas do you think could change the world?